Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It is week 11. We are so close to the end of this project, not to mention the end of the semester. I hope you're taking your vitamins because it's going to get busy this week, but this week will make next week easier. Okay. Also, what will make life easier for you is if you work with both Emily and Tiffany, not to mention me, to help you with your research, with honing your questions, with your organization, with whatever is coming up. And if you're struggling with sentence level stuff, please, please, please work with Emily. Please, please, please. If I've given you loads of feedback about sentence boundaries, problems with commas, where do sentences start and stop, misused words, this is the time to get those skills where you really need them to be, and get that support. So please reach out to Emily as you can. Remember that you get 10 points for working with Tiffany and 10 points for working with Emily and 10 points for working with me at least once in the semester. So if you haven't cashed in on your 10 points for Tiffany and Emily time, please do. If you work with them more than once, we'll talk. Maybe there'll be more points down the road, but at minimum, let's do that. This week, we're going to be putting the pieces together. You've been doing your research, you've been annotating, you've been doing your they say, I say assignments, you've been putting your sources through craft testing. You have found good stuff to work with, let's hope. And if you haven't, you still have the opportunity. The fat lady hasn't sung, and that would be me. So please make sure that you have the sources you need moving forward. So this week, each assignment in this week's module supports the next. So let's take a look at what we're doing. We're going to have a thesis and outline project broken up into bits. So you're going to have a thesis workshop, you're going to have a brainstorming free write, and you're going to write an outline. You're also going to take a quiz on commas. The quiz itself is really simple. It's only 5 questions. It's not going to break you or make you. It's only 5 points. But the support material that I'm going to share with you is going to be very meaningful to you, because that's kind of foundational to a lot of the basic writing skills that you need. So the quiz is practice. I just want you to review the material. So let's get to that. What we're doing. Your exploration journal is to identify major themes that emerge from your research. We'll talk about that in a second. You've got a thesis workshop, excuse me, and an outline and the comma usage quiz. Pardon my frog. Readings and resources. There's a chapter here on outlining, which is very helpful. So please take a look at that. It just helps you think about how you get from here to there. This is the chapter you should have read about thesis last week, also a chapter on paragraph development. Because these are still foundational, I'm just referencing them again. So it's not like new reading, you're going to go back to that. Also not new reading, review chapters 33 and 34 about compiling research and so on. And your textbook has information about how to cite in text using MLA style and how to create a works cited page. So those reference materials are still available to you, all kinds of good stuff. Here's your prompt for the informational report. Here is an outline PowerPoint, and I've made a video of that for you this week to go over the bits and bobs about how to organize an informational report. Please watch that. And you can review the PowerPoint. If you don't want to hear me talk about it, that's okay too. It's right here. We're going to go over this PIE paragraph PowerPoint in a moment. And here's the material I was talking about regarding extended rules for commas, using commas properly, avoiding unnecessary commas, eliminating comma splices in fused sentences. All of this stuff, just take a look at it. These are chapters in your grammar book. This is probably your best friend. It's just a one-stop shop for comma usage. I would suggest printing this baby out and just having it handy, so that when you get a little squiggle in your MS Word, little blue underline that says something's wrong here, you'll be able to figure out, well, what's that something that's wrong? Maybe a comma goes here, or maybe a period goes here, or maybe that doesn't make any sense. So when you put your work through the grammar and spell check, it won't catch every little bump, but when you do, you'll know what to do, ideally. Grammar and spell check in MS Word helps you out a lot. You can use Grammarly if you prefer, and it actually explains how these grammar issues and these punctuation issues happen. But that's for the last draft. I'm just putting this in the back of your brain so that you know that you have these resources available for you as you do your revisions and clean up the grammar and spelling and punctuation. That's down the road. Right now we're putting together the scaffolding for your essay. So let's take a look at what that means. There's my video explaining how to organize your essay, especially. And please pay attention to the bit about hooks, ways in which you can grab your reader's attention. I'll just give you a little heads up about this. You can start with a zippy quote or question, startling statistic or fact, a vivid description, a short illustrative story or metaphor, historical background, a definition of a concept central to your essay's topic. All these ways are great ways to grab your reader's attention. So here's in the PowerPoint and in the video, you'll see all kinds of cool ways to hook your readers. So watch that. I know, so many videos. Okay, here's your exploratory journal. This will help you with your discussion. So you finish up your research as best you can. Annotate, annotate, annotate. As you're annotating, you might decide that you're observing different topics that keep coming up over and over again in your research. These are what we call emerging themes, topics that turn into subtopics. Now, you already started with sub-questions, and those can be exactly those themes that you explore. That's a groovy and cool. But if you find that you have discovered new subtopics or themes that show up in your research and you think that must be meaningful because it keeps showing up, well, maybe those are your subtopics. Maybe those first drafty kind of questions aren't as meaningful as the things that emerge now. That's part of the process too. It's cool if the old questions still work for you. Great. If you find new things are more meaningful, then follow your curiosity. Follow what the research is showing you. So identify what those things are. Now, as you're going through your annotations and you're trying to compile your research, one tip I think is helpful is to use those color coding annotation tools. So maybe you are doing some research on, I'm just pulling a topic out of my ear, the joys, the career path of midwifery, for example. And you want to find out all about education, and maybe you want to find out all about the more, I don't know, spiritual practices associated with midwifery, and you want to find out more about risk factors associated with midwifery. You might go through your research and highlight common themes. So yellow could be for education. Pink could be for the spiritual practices associated with midwifery. And green could be risk factors associated, or what. I'm making stuff up here. Okay, I haven't researched midwifery in years. I used to think I wanted to be a midwife. It passed, but not that I don't love the practice. I just didn't do it. So my point is, you can highlight in different colors so that you can find common material. Material that supports a common theme. That can help you out. So as you're doing all this stuff, you're finding your themes, whatever emerges as the subtopics that support your main idea. You're going to do a free write. And you're going to answer these questions. What is the most surprising and interesting thing you've discovered about your topic, and why do you think this will be important to your readers? Spend some energy on that, because that's where your big thesis is going to come from. Why is this meaningful? Why do we care? What additional questions do you think your reader would have that you can answer through research? So again, you are in service of your readers. You're providing information that they can use. And what are 2 to 4 emerging themes or subtopics that you've identified in your research? And these will be the chunks of your essay. We've talked about this before. This shouldn't be too surprising. Again, themes and subtopics are kind of interchangeable at this point. We talked about subtopics being those questions that you asked in your concept maps and so on. But as you're doing more research, you might find new themes. So I hope that made sense. If it doesn't, ask me. Okay, so that's once you've done that free writing, you're going to be in better shape to create a thesis. We talked about a thesis structure before. The PowerPoint is here. And so there are different structures that you can try. I would like you to experiment and try all three. Now remember that a good thesis statement answers the big question, but does so in such a way that gives you the how or because. So, for example, here's a main idea plus 3 structure. My sample research question: in what ways does listening to music benefit people with dementia? In what ways creates the opportunity to answer the because or how. So here we have psychologists find that listening to music helps patients with dementia, main idea, connect to old ideas or memories, reduce feelings of anxiety, and form closer bonds with caregivers. We have 1, 2, 3 topics that we will explore in the body of our essay. It lays out the structure. Groovy. Okay. Teeter-totter structure takes the reader from an old idea to a new idea. Sample question. We are so used to doing many things at once, we assume that multitasking is a necessary skill, but is that true? The answer in a thesis, starting with an old idea. While multitasking may seem to save time, old idea, psychologists, neuroscientists, and others are finding that it can, 1, put us under a great deal of stress and actually make us less efficient. 2 topics that we're definitely going to explore. We're going to also have the background information that we need to explore as well. Why do we think multitasking is worthwhile? Why does this culture support multitasking? And yet, here it is. It doesn't work so well. Or you can state the main idea and why it matters to your audience. And here's an example of how we can narrow the focus of our thesis so that we are addressing only what is manageable in the essay itself. So, sample question: are teenage girls negatively affected by sexualized imagery in popular media? Okay, it's a great question, but popular media, what is that? That's gigantic, right? Are we talking about social media? Are we talking about movies and television shows? Are we talking about advertisements? Are we talking about what? It's everywhere. Media is everywhere. So what does that mean? So we need to narrow it. So the thesis, this is the focus, right? Teenage girls who are captivated by the sexual imagery on MTV, very specific, are conditioned to believe that a woman's worth depends on her sexuality. Okay, that's the main idea, specific context. A feeling that harms self-esteem and behavior, 2 topics that we know are going to be explored in the essay. In the essay, we know we're going to have a little discussion about MTV. We're going to describe the sexualized imagery in MTV, and we're going to discuss how this harms self-esteem and behavior in female teens, right? We know those elements are going to be in the essay. So you're going to try all 3 approaches: main idea plus 3, teeter-totter, and states the main idea and why it matters to your audience. Okay, focusing, making it manageable. Now you're going to respond to 2 classmates, and in that response you are going to rank their thesis statements, not to say you're just going to give feedback. You're going to say, as a reader, this thesis is most intriguing to me because I'm curious to know X, Y, and Z, or this works for me because. Again, it's kind of you're answering a question. Which one is the best thesis? Well, you're going to say which ones work best in your opinion for whatever reason. So you can explain why you choose the ones you do. So here's an example of the ways in which you can respond to the thesis of your peers. So you can say what you liked about it, what you didn't, and so on. This is a workshop. You can tweak and work with your thesis given the feedback that you receive. You're not locked into using whichever thesis people vote on, and they might not have to vote on the same one. You're going to make that ultimate call yourself. Okay, so you'll see the journal supports the discussion. The discussion supports your outline with research. You're going to outline your essay. Be sure that you've gone through the PowerPoint about structuring your essay. Know what a hook is, how you can grab your reader's attention. Notice, and it'll break down all the elements here. Don't you panic. This is a way for you to pre-write your essay. So this is the structure we're looking at. Keep in mind that the purpose is to inform. You're not here to persuade. You're not here to argue. But so in the introduction, you're going to open with a hook, whatever that is. Choose your way of grabbing the reader's attention. You're going to allude to the research question and purpose. Why are we doing this? Why should we care? Give us a little background information, the who, what, where, when, why, and how, and lead us to your thesis. This will, if you can get this hammered out to some degree, you're going to be so much happier. And then you're going to take on the different themes. Now you can have more than one paragraph for a theme or subtopic, same thing. You're going to state the first theme or big idea that you'll discuss in your report. You can do this as just here it is. You can hammer out the specifics of your topic sentence later if you want to. Just tell us what the main idea is that you're exploring. And then give us examples from your sources, at least two, a quote or paraphrase from your sources that you will use. Ideally, practice using a signal phrase or an in-text citation so that we can understand, so that you don't have to do that work later. Make sure that the source is identified. Right now, you're just plugging in the source material. We will turn those into real paragraphs later, but just get those sources in there. So what we're doing is beginning the work of a synthesis paragraph in each of these paragraphs. Synthesis means we're bringing the source material from two different sources, or maybe it could be from the same source, but ideally we want to have more than one source talking about a topic. So earlier, when I said that I would be highlighting my sources in yellow for whatever topic that was, I think it was education, I might have, for midwifery, I might have this source says lay midwives can be trained in this way, but licensed midwives who can work in hospitals are trained in this way. So I can have a chunk on education, that's my big idea, but I'm going to have a chunk here about lay midwives and their level of training, and professional, I'm sorry, not that lay midwives aren't professional, but hospital trained midwives get this kind of training. And then I'll make sense of that later, but those are what my sources are going to say about this thing in the overview of my theme. So you're going to do that with each of your themes. In the conclusion, you're going to leave the reader with the final thoughts to remember. This can include a call to action, which, I don't really love calls to action because that's an argument, so I wouldn't stress that. But maybe a summary of the main ideas and reflection on the topic. So what? Why is this meaningful to your audience? Because you're thinking about in service of the audience. Why is this meaningful to you, readers? You're going to echo the thesis statement. You're not going to use the exact wording, but you're going to come back to that thesis statement. And you've seen that model in the scavenger hunt that you did this last week. You're going to kind of reinforce that. And then you're going to end the thesis with an important point that you want to leave the readers with. It's that zippy last line. Usually it's the echo of the thesis, but leave us with I'm so glad I read this. It's that zippy last line. If you're looking for models for beginnings and endings and so on, you can look in the Hall of Fame. You can see how other students have approached the process. You can look at other student essays and review that PowerPoint. Okay, so I know that looks like a lot of work this week, but the work you do this week will make next week so much easier, so much easier, so much easier. So take your vitamins, get your rest, go outside and look at a tree, get some energy, feel good about yourself because you've taken on some good stuff this week, and the skills you are practicing as a writer, as a researcher, as a scholar will serve you well, not just in this class, but in other classes as you progress in your college career. So hang tight. Let me know how I can help. Join me in our weekly workshop, and I'll be here to help you out. We'll meet today this is Monday, at 3, and Tuesday at 4. We'll talk about synthesis paragraphs, and we'll talk about this outline action. Bring your questions, bring your concerns. If anything's freaking you out, this is the time to talk about it. And don't forget to work with Emily and Tiffany. Thanks, y'all. Talk to you later. Sandals.